Hi, I'm Corwin LaCourte.
And I'm Lainey Goffley.
And we are the admins of the Mischief Managed Roleplay community in Second Life. And you are listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley.
Well, there's another career. If that ever opens up, that is pretty darn good.
I actually do musical theater, so...
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Joe Yardley, 1920s Berlin. Hi, Joe.
Hello.
And we heard in the station ID Corwin LaCourte and Nashari Hines, both administrators from the Managed Mischief Project in Second Life, a role-playing group that has an amazing Harry Potter-inspired sim with tons of activities. And we will talk with them later about roleplay.
Excellent.
Right, because Joe, you need to learn a lot how to run a roleplay sim in Second Life, do you?
Absolutely, yeah, I can't wait.
This is a great example of, I think, what SL does that no other digital space can afford. This type of freedom is just not being done anywhere else. You can play Quidditch. You don't know what that is, right?
Of course I do. I've read a Harry Potter book once.
In the 1920s they had those?
No, but, I'm not really in the 1920s, darling.
You snuck it into the Simplicissimus and reading under the table in the Hindenburg Hochschule.
I read it in real life because, unlike you, I spent some time in real life as well.
We just passed April 1st, which is traditionally, as you may know, a day where people play pranks on other people.
Yeah.
And I know you did a really good one, and Linden Lab did a really good one, and I'm very proud to say that I fooled a lot of people by saying that I'm going to be out of Second Life. 8 years is enough. I realize it's an addiction. That's what I posted on my Facebook page. I realize now it's an addiction and I need to go, and thank you very much, friends, for not helping to pull me out.
I was so relieved when you wrote that. I thought, finally some peace and quiet, and I can do this show on my own, and, people we may get more than 4 listeners.
But the funny thing is, or the sad thing is, that there were at least 15 people who I haven't heard of from in years, who were from, former high school friends who I know because I sent them stuff that I worked on in Second Life over the years, and they either ignored it or they came back with things like, oh, I don't get it. Oh, that's kind of sad that people do that. And these people liked my status, and these people posted, oh, I'm so glad that you finally got it. So very revealing April Fool's joke, and I couldn't help myself
playing along
intermittently because there were posts like, oh, God, hugs. I know addiction is hard. It's great that you overcame it. Your imaginary friends are not real.
Yeah, well, I'm here.
Are you really?
I'm not real, sorry.
All right, so a couple of housekeeping notes. You can get in touch with us. Draxfiles, the avatar. Draxfiles, the Skype username. radio@draxfiles.com. You can become a sponsor. You can become an individual subscriber with $100 Linden per month. And today we have a giveaway. Our friend Loki Elliott, one of our 4 listeners, has created a retro arcade table. It's a table that you might see. You actually see it frequently here in California in pizza joints. It's a table with 2 seats where you can play classic arcade games, Pac-Man, Space Invaders, and so on and so forth.
I think I've seen one once here in Europe.
Loki created one in Second Life. The modeling is impeccable, if I may say. It's a Drax Files themed arcade table with two players can be seated at that table.
And what can they play? Me beating you over the head with a stick or something? Me trying to cut your hair off?
No, these are classic games. These are not current games.
I thought it was a Drax Files game.
These are not immersive adventure games with violence. No, these are retro games. There are 8 games, but the problem is here, and maybe Linden Lab is listening, the web kit in Second Life is somewhat outdated, especially on the Mac. So you can't really embed Flash-based games on a shared media prim, which you can do on a PC. So Loki experimented with that, but he was unsuccessful in actually embedding into this device playable games. So right now there's a loop that plays. So it's basically a visual prop, but it's a really, really nice one. And I'm sure Loki is, he's a tinkerer. Maybe he can come up with an idea to embed an actual web-based Flash game, Pac-Man.
If anyone can do it, Loki can.
So if you want to win this thing, if you want to win this special limited edition, no transfer, Drax Files themed retro arcade table, which I think also is in H's chat room in the novel Ready Player One, then what you have to do is to post on your social media stream, Plurk, Twitter, the mysecondlife.com profile page, or Facebook, that you are listening to the Drax Files every Friday. So you got to come out of the virtual Drax closet and say, there's never too much Drax and Joe.
The Drax closet. Oh my God! If I was in a Drax closet, I'd be fighting to get out.
It's the box I put people in, I'm open-minded. These boxes are big.
It's the box you are also in. That's why it's so scary.
We don't have a lot of time to go into detail about this box. We got to get through.
Well, I've heard what people do in Second Life, so...
Now, this was a good week in the news for Second Life. The Good magazine, good.is, that we talked about with this new media artist. I already forgot his name.
Oh, that's a good sign.
No matter what you think about art, what upset me was the way the magazine just printed sort of verbatim what he said and some inaccurate statements about Second Life. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. But now this magazine has an article by Mark Hay entitled "Second Life is Staying Alive," and it's actually a quite positive article with very good screenshots. The main photo in this article features you, me, and Fluffy, and Loz Hyde, and Max Graff, and Sky Spinner Solster from our live podcast from SL11B. So this article focuses on community and culture, and that basically community and all these different subcultures that are very vibrant in SL basically kept Second Life alive, which is quite accurate. It's one piece of the puzzle.
They're showing exactly the side of Second Life that we wished would get a little bit more attention in the media.
Yeah, and it also is refreshing to see somebody embracing, subcultures that may be frowned upon by some. I mean, it's funny, the article mentions, I think, Satanists and just sort of matter-of-factly different types of subcultures, and usually you see those contextualized in the mainstream media just in terms of making fun of them. But here is actually the point made, this is a place where people with different niche interests can really kind of thrive.
Let's not pretend that there isn't also a dark and kinky and pervy side, but a little bit more of attention to the other side.
The current Linden Lab administration or regime, or whatever you want to call it, is kind of embracing that very, very colorful plethora of cultures, and some of them may be kinky or are.
They definitely are. I spend every weekend in a latex sailor's cove.
Oh, send me the LM as soon as we get off the air.
I'm sorry, I just made that up. I'm trying to sound grown up. I wouldn't be surprised if it is a sim next month.
The thing is that in hindsight, it's easy to say that narrowly going after the enterprise market, as previous Linden Lab executives did, was a bad idea. But it's nonetheless really good to see how Linden Lab is embracing that diversity and saying, this is an asset. This is not something we need to clean up in order to sell to someone else. It's actually really our big asset. And so that's reflected in that article. Another article that you also blogged about is from Business Insider in Australia. You have some Australia connection.
Let's not go there, mate.
The headline is "Second Life was 13 years early to virtual reality and it's getting ready to try again."
I love that title. And it's such a good description of what happened to Second Life, because looking back at it, it does feel like we were too early, and perhaps that's why it failed. You can see it in history, the inventions and the things that come that are ahead of its time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Second Life may actually have been ahead of its time. We'll have to go and see, of course, what happens to virtual reality next.
I think we need to state this again. Second Life is virtual reality. It is virtual reality. Now, everybody's talking about VR. Yes, VR is also a platform that is connected to, when you negotiate VC money in Silicon Valley, you need to throw around that term in the context of, a piece of hardware. I understand that. But also, Second Life is virtual reality in the sense that it enables you to create a reality which is of your choosing.
Which is virtual.
It's almost like something that's not real.
It is what it is, and people can, they can talk about semantics. Look it up in a dictionary, and that should put an end to the entire discussion. Second Life is virtual reality. Done.
I want to say I have an essay coming out. I don't know when, but it's going to appear on the Road to VR blog, hopefully soon. I'm very proud of it. I rewrote it, and I'm very proud of one sentence that where I state that the Oculus Rift is awesome, something like that. I'm not quoting myself verbatim now, but this is just icing on a cake that Second Lifers have been eating for a long time. Isn't that great, Joe? Isn't that great writing?
You're so modest. Yeah, it's pretty much Shakespeare, mate. It is actually. It's true. You change your monitor, it doesn't change that we've been in VR for years.
I would completely agree with you, but let's look at, for example, here the context. Gizmodo has an article about William Gibson, the author, of course, of Neuromancer, and arguably the creator of the term cyberspace, or the concept of it in that literary context, has been given a Samsung Gear VR headset and went in there, and he was shown a bunch of demos, and apparently he's quoted as saying they did it. You know, they finally created it. So here is the father, and he was in Second Life in 2007. I actually reported on it, and he was quite critical of these past attempts. And so there is no doubt that when this screen that keeps us from the world, and we are being put closer into the world with all our senses, is the next step.
With Second Life, we are looking at a virtual world. With Oculus Rift and devices like that, you are inside the virtual world. That changes how we experience it. It doesn't change the world.
The identification with the avatar and with the community is, again, we talk about this all the time, is the key here, which lets us forget about the screen. Just like a good film does, we forget that we're in a movie theater with annoying people around us. When we read a good book, we forget that we're reading it. We're in the story. Real quick, couple more items. High Fidelity, Philip Rosedale's new virtual world is in open alpha, so people can sign up there, highfidelity.io. They can meet you, Joe, and me, and others, and just hang out in a virtual world which has absolutely nothing in it. I'm kidding.
Oh yeah, they're moving along pretty fast, and they've got quite a few very exciting things.
I don't know what they have. They have prims, but they call them voxels. I mean, come on. No, all kidding aside, this is a playground for people who are good in scripting. It is fairly simple to implement scripts. It is super easy and fast to put up your own server, to run your own world on your machine.
Now you've got
one. I registered 2 domains, and it takes literally 5 minutes to download the Stack Manager and run it on your laptop or wherever, and have a world up and running, and that world shows up in their directory, and people can visit it, and then you can set permissions if they can build. Yeah, that is fascinating. Communication is by voice. They have just previously announced that they will not implement chat, which I don't quite understand why. They are outsourcing chat. It's an interesting decision. I hope to go up there in a few weeks' time to interview the makers in more detail about why they made certain decisions designing this new world.
Yeah, I've been there a few times, and I must admit it's been way too long since I visited, but I felt that it was too early for me.
So you're like one of those people, like Ebbe Altberg distinguished in his talk at the Virtual Worlds Educational Conference. You're one of those people who are not really kind of creating things. You're just basically moving furniture around, right?
I'm quite creative because I build all those buildings. Every building in Berlin that you see, I built with prims the old-fashioned way, and then turn them into mesh and make all the textures. So, and I also have a shop, even though I don't do enough for that shop.
You can create in high fidelity basically pretty much like Prims. You can move them around. I tried it a little bit. You get used to it quite easily. You can import from any 3D model marketplace of your choosing. High Fidelity even has its own marketplace now. They just announced that. They're planning on enabling you to make derivative works of the marketplace, and they said they will add a payment system very soon. I'd encourage our listeners to sign up and go in there and give it a try and see, what's different from Second Life. What is the same? Where's the train headed? It's certainly interesting to observe the metaverse race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me add one more thing here in the news item, then we go to the feature interview. Second Life has, Linden Lab has added new landing pages for Second Life. go.secondlife.com/landing/fashion, for instance.
Really good idea. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I've only seen fashion. Is there another one yet?
Fashion shoots you to Creator, that has a video embedded that I made with Lost Hide, and actually the one about the Dwarfins as well. The layout of the pages is great. It's very appealing images. The fashion page has images from Apsy, from Feroche magazine and Second Life. So I think they hired a new web designer, and I think they're, step by step kind of revamping all the different web properties.
The pictures they used are much more exciting than Barbie and Ken, because they are using haute couture. These are the kind of pictures.
Haute couture.
Oui, oui. Je ne sais pas, je te comprends. But I know nothing about fashion, and I'm the first to admit that. I've been wearing the same 3 clothes in Second Life for 5 years. But as far as I can see, I think that these pictures would be interesting to people in real life who are into fashion, and they may not know anything about Second Life. But if they see these pictures, they may get interested.
We need to move on. There's one more item that I'm going to mention real quick. Let's not get into it. Let the people comment on it. And the item is Second Life has new premium perks for premium members. Premium members, as you know, they get a little suburban home. They get a little stipend, and now they get 50 offline IMs instead of 25. So when you're offline, they usually only store 25. Now they get 50. This move by Linden Lab was ridiculed a little bit and thought of as an early April Fool's joke. It's not an April Fool's joke. It's just, I want to mention it in the context because you last time suggested the as a premium perk, look into offering SL Go.
SL Go, bigger land, extra groups. I mean, there are a million things that you could offer that at least some of the premium users would get really excited about. But I think they managed to find the one that didn't really excite anyone.
I want to steer people again to Inara Pay's excellent blog. She has an interesting analysis why the economics of SL Go, adding SL Go to the premium offering is not working out, and why other offers that were suggested by the community don't really work because they're kind of too narrow. Listeners, let us know, what do you think of this move by Linden Lab?
It's a bit silly because pretty much everyone I know, either you put in your profile, my messages get capped, so send me a note card, or you just activate that really handy system where you can have your EM sent to your email address. Yeah. I mean, the day I found that option, I've never missed a message again.
I do want to see a discussion around this that is ongoing, because the offers as they stand now, as you wrote up in your post, Joe, they're just not enticing enough.
The main idea behind my blog was that this would be a service that at least quite a few people would not only be happy with, but it would mean that quite a few other people might get interested in becoming premium members. And I think that at the end, the best option is to have a few things that you can offer, and premium members can choose one of them. You want free land, you want a free house, you want free SL Go, you want a stipend that's a little bit bigger. Pick one of these 3-4 options, and that'll probably make people happy.
All right, before we go to the interview with the guys from Managed Mischief Role-Playing Sim, let's play some music. Today, Tamra Hayden, really one of my favorite Second Life musicians, really talented, great production of her songs. She has a great voice. Here's Tamara Hayden with the song called Lucky from her album A Day at the Fair.
The sky is blue, and I'm with you. If this ain't a dream, yeah, I must be lucky. My future's made. I just got laid. Call it what you like. Yeah, I call it lucky. Yeah, I've missed the boat, I've missed the train. I see my best laid plans roll down the drain. Life has dealt me several blows, but I can't complain, 'cause you're my love puppet and you drive me insane. And I feel lucky. Oh, I feel so lucky. Yeah. I've got two eyes, I've got one nose, got all my moving parts, yeah, I call that lucky. Got two red lips, know how to use 'em, yeah, pucker up, baby. Ooh, you can't refuse 'em. Oh, I've been deserted, I've been detained, have second thoughts in this decayed brain. But now that you're beside me, one truth remains. I have so goddamn lucky. Oh, I am so lucky. Whoa. Been in denial, I've been insane. I've been to hell and back and still know the pain. I've lost control of my American dream, but now that you're my co-pilot, flying this thing, I feel lucky. Oh, I feel so lucky. Yeah. Oh,
So that was Tamara Hayden with Lucky from her album A Day at the Fair. And as we go to air, Tamara will play today, as a matter of fact, at 7 p.m. Second Life time, Friday, April 3rd, at Terra Lascivus. She will be singing Broadway and arias. They made her do it. she messaged me, said she can do it, but she was
Pressured.
She's probably preparing as we tape this. Let us repeat, though, in this context, Machinima folks, meet with these talented Second Life musicians and make music videos, Make music videos, machinima folks. Flood the YouTubes. That combination, a Second Life musician, a Second Life filmmaker. Do your best work and put it out there and show the people what can be done. Do it.
Yeah, and a nice short video clip. If the song goes viral or the video goes viral, you're helping each other.
Let's play the interview with Nashari Hines, aka Linny Goffley, and Corwin Lacourt. They're both administrators from the Managed Mischief Harry Potter-inspired role-playing sim. They have a magnificent sim in Second Life, very active role-playing community comprised of fans of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. Fan-based art. It's a homage. Let me just overstate it before if you're an IP lawyer, don't call me. We're going to address this in an interview, why this is not an intellectual property violation and why this is really thriving. And this is the best of both worlds, really taking inspiration from obviously a very well-known saga, popular culture entity, and expanding on it. I started asking Corwin about the basics, and I asked him how this project came about and when.
We started out as a sim called Hogwarts Your Story. What year was that, Lenny?
11, 12 as well.
Yeah, 11. I think 11. And it was run by another group of admins, and they, as admins tend to do in Second Life, burned out really quickly and decided that they wanted to close down Hogwarts Your Story. And so myself and a group of admins who are no longer with us, including Anya Omai, who is the fabulous builder of our castle. She was the original sim builder at Mischief Managed. We took it over. We decided to close that sim altogether and move to a completely new land and just start from scratch so that we could build a completely new custom mesh castle and all of that. And so that's how we became Mischief Managed.
Your sim is amazing. Is it one sim, or is it how big is it actually?
It is a single sim. Our castle and grounds are on the actual ground level, and then all of the interiors of the castle are done in skyboxes so that our role players have less lag and we have more room to spread out in the sky.
You can also play Quidditch, right?
You can play Quidditch. In fact, several months back, met a fabulous new scripter named Sadie, who is really just an incredibly magical person. I'm a builder. I can do mesh and texturing. I'm also on one of my other avatars, my main Second Life business, I build hair, but I can't script my way out of a wet paper sack. And Sadie is just truly magical. And so he built a fabulous Quidditch system for us that's exclusive to our sim, and it's really, really nice, actually.
People dismiss Second Life for many reasons, but one thing that I always hear when it comes to kind of gaming and even like Quidditch or football, there's a football league, as you know, and all sorts of things. People would say, "Yeah, you can't do that. It's ridiculous."
You can. I mean, certainly, Second Life, I don't think is set up to be something as fast-paced as an FPS, shooter. But Quidditch is a very fast-paced, fairly violent game, and we've managed a pretty darn good system for that. I don't have a lot of lag in it, and most of our players don't. We were able to create a system where you could actually do all of those things through a HUD and through balls that behave in the proper manner. I think that sports in Second Life are definitely doable.
If you want to summarize it real quick, just in case people have never heard of Harry Potter, what is Quidditch?
It's essentially like soccer/football. It's a wizarding sport, and there are three golden rings at each end of this huge pitch. And we manage our lag by having our pitch, of course, be in the sky and nothing be around it. The chasers, and they chase a ball called the quaffle. It's enchanted to float slowly toward the ground. Then there are other balls. There are the bludgers, which are these little metal balls that are very angry, and they're charmed to chase players around and try and knock them off their broomsticks. Beaters, which are the players that are in charge of those, fly around chasing those balls, trying to keep them off of their players and hit them towards the other player's team. The final ball is the golden snitch, and it's a tiny golden ball, and it flies very quickly, and it's very difficult to catch. And when the seeker catches the ball, the game is over, and that team is awarded 150 points. Our balls each behave differently. The quaffle just sort of slowly falls towards the ground, and the chasers can catch it and throw it to one another. We use keystrokes for everything. The chasers will be 1, 2, or 3, and then a throw button to actually physically throw it through the thing. The bludgers are when a beater catches one, it stays on their bat for a small moment, and they have a few seconds to decide what player they're going to throw it at, and they can hit the appropriate button. Everybody has a big number above their head. The snitch, it is uncatchable at certain times. It flies so fast you can't catch it, and then it will stop and let off a spray of gold sparkles, at which point, if a seeker approaches it, it flees from them.
Now, Shari, Corwin at the outset said that admins burn out. You're an administrator. Do you have the burnout syndrome currently, or are you planning on getting it?
I've been an administrator only since about April of last year. So I'm one of the newer additions.
You have one more year before the burnout issue.
I think the only way to negate being burned out is to make sure you balance yourself. I also have another character that I don't publicize so that I can still enjoy the role play aspects of the sim and still have fun, as well as being able to, get ideas across and help the sim grow. We have different departments for specific things, which helps. For myself and for Corwin, we don't handle like the applications or things like that. So there's a completely different admin that handles that. And
then a team of people that assist them.
Yes, exactly. Well, quite a few people that go through the applications and figure everything out and approve, disapprove, work on applications for that.
You mean applications for people who want to join the community?
Yes. Well, you can come in on our what we call our Muggle Mondays. Other than that, you have to be a member in order to get from our landing point, which is what we call Hogsmeade, down to the main part of the castle.
The application process, are you doing this to keep the balance correct between students and wizards and all the different roles?
I think they do the applications because they want to make sure that people understand what is canonically correct before they get involved. So like we can't have robots walking around because they just want to do it or something like that.
It's to make sure that the players understand the wizarding world and have at least a basic understanding. And there's a lot of people to help them also understand that. But every day we have applications for people that are the chief high demon of Zanzibar, who his mother was Voldemort's exes, the craziest stuff, and so our ALOs, which are the team that help the admin who is in charge of that, they go through them and they message the players and say, hey, let's talk about this, and this isn't appropriate and you can't do that, and do you understand blah, and let me help you with this. And so it's just to make sure that because our players really love to get very immersed in the story, and so if you have somebody flying through riding a robot chicken, it just doesn't work out so well.
How do you really specifically go about preventing this? And then when it happens, how do you go about it? You ban people, you block people. How do you do this?
Well, we have a three-strike process. So if they're really truly just absolutely heinous, then we'll give them a strike, and they have 3 shots. So getting banned is pretty difficult. But usually it's simply that players that aren't added to the role play group can't go beyond Hogsmeade Village and come into the castle. So the players are pretty free to role play in an environment where they're not going to interact with people that are not correct for the sim. But I mean, we have a great many players, and we tend to be fairly liberal on who we let in, as long as they've shown us that they've written a thoughtful character and are making an attempt at role play and have the appropriate clothing. You have to have a school uniform.
So you're relatively free to create a character as long as it fits the theme?
Yes, as long as it fits the Wizarding World theme. Our sim takes place 20 years in the future after the Harry Potter books end, and it's just in the Wizarding World setting. So they're free to make up anything, and our rule is that you can't have any connection to characters from the books, so that it's something completely unique into itself. It's a fan project, that we're not trying to role play in the book setting. We just we're trying to role play in the world, not necessarily in the books themselves.
This answers obviously my question I had. How do you deal with intellectual property issues?
J.K. Rowling has been really, really liberal with allowing fan websites. There are many of them out there, ones that use way more intellectual property than we do. We don't use any artwork that's related directly to everything is custom built by us. We don't use characters that are canon, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's just set in the Wizarding World, and it's completely a not-for-profit fan-based project. If people bring in actual logos from the movie and such, we tell them, we're sorry, you can't sell that here.
Going back to my earlier question, now I'm going to call you Linny. What does your typical day then look like? So is it a mixture of a little bit enforcement here and nudging people in the right direction?
Well, it depends on the day. I'm also a professor on the sim, so if it's a day where I'm going to be teaching at the same time, the professor avatar is the same one that I use for the admin. If it's a day that I'm teaching a class, and I typically will spend a couple of hours preparing my class and then getting ready to teach it, and periodically get an IM from a random person asking a question about their application, and then I'll have to point them to the right place, or I'll have to go check dorm beds to make sure people aren't over their prim limit, or I'll have to make sure the vendors in Hogsmeade don't have copyright material out, just random spot checks.
Give me an overview of what people do. So some people live there, they have dorms, they're students. Then are there planned activities, battles of sorts? Obviously, I guess maybe a Quidditch tournament or stuff like that.
We're a para roleplay community or semi-para roleplay community. So the players, a lot of our players are writers. Some of them do like to hit us with massive walls of text, and such. But in general, there are classes throughout the day. We have players that play professors, and they make up their own classes and use the classrooms to teach them. And they're scheduled on our calendar. The players can attend. We have a roleplay HUD that's been created where it's sort of like any role-playing game. After they attend a class, they get a role-play point that they can add to different categories on their HUD, their spells or potions or transfigurations and divinations and herbology, magical creatures, academics and such, and they use those for dice rolls in their spell work when they're role-playing casting spells on the sim. And then there's a number of other things. Sadie just finished a wizarding called Wizarding Snap. It's a card game, and the players can play one another and try and win collectible cards, which are all pictures of professors from our sim and the sim itself.
Is that HUD based?
There is a HUD, but the HUD is really just to start the game. The game itself is all graphical, and it's a click to interact sort of card game that Sadie crafted, and it's beautiful. Then of course there are Quidditch games. What am I leaving out? It just goes on and on and on. And then there are scheduled roleplay events, different things that happen that go along with the main story. Our roleplay department has a lot of very elaborate ongoing plots.
What is the biggest challenge for a roleplay community in Second Life when it comes to the immersion or breaking the immersion? What bugs me is when I'm in world and some functionality throws me out onto the web. I mean, this is a simple thing. Obviously, you have an object with additional information, and you click on it and it opens your browser. How do you guys solve that adding information or dispensing information while not breaking the immersion?
Well, for me, I really enjoy the game aspect of it. I try and keep as much in-world as possible. Like, I really wanted things to be, HUD-based, but the HUDs have to be pretty and themed. We have to use a little bit of web-based stuff for like our spell lists, rules about the sim, etc. We post as much as we can in-world on, themed-looking posters and such. But things do link to our website, but nothing like would pop up. They would have to actively go there to do that. I mean, me personally, I'm a builder, so I have Blender on one screen and Photoshop on the other and Second Life on the third one at any given moment. I'm completely self-taught. I'm a hairstylist in real life. I have no formal training whatsoever. I had always been fascinated by builders when I first joined Second Life. There was a hairstyle that I desperately wanted to have that I just could not find at another hair builder. And I tracked down some sculpts and assembled my own sort of like, Legos. And then somebody messaged me and said, hey, where did you buy this hair at? And I was like, oh, I made it. And he was like, oh, where's your store? And I was like, oh, I don't have a store. And he was like, you made that and you don't have a store? And I was like, yes. And he's like, well, can I buy one? And I was like, yes. And so I sold it to him. And then 3 hours, I wish I had kept this guy's name, but this was years back. And he messaged me and said, well, here is a link to YouTube on how to upload stuff to the marketplace in Second Life. You need to sell your stuff. It's great. I love his hairstyle. And so I put this one hairstyle in a single color. It was brown on the marketplace. And then I sold 12 of them almost right away. And I thought, holy crap, I have to make more hair. I became an admin at Hogwarts Your Story with Anya Omai is a goddess. I don't know. She's a builder in Second Life, and she's pretty well known, and she's incredibly talented. And she was our chief builder there, and also built all of our original ground castle here at Mischief Managed. And she was just incredibly helpful. She just told me, once you learn the hotkeys, your fingers will just go there. And one day on a Tuesday at 2:35 p.m., she was right. It just clicked. And then it's Second Life and building in Second Life in Blender is just, and it's a constant, eternal learning process. I mean, Linny is a fabulous mesh builder as well, and she'll do something, and I'll be like, now how the heck would you do that in Blender? And so I'll go on a mission from God to track down exactly how that is accomplished. And I don't know, it's like a puzzle to me. I think it's definitely doable for almost anyone. You just have to get past those vicious hotkeys. It's rough, but my wisdom there is you can always hit space and search on anything, and it will tell you where the hell it is.
Linny, tell me your story about building. Can you give people hope?
I had a friend who has a store in SL called the Orange Works or something like that, and I asked, what program do you use? And he said 3ds Max. And I was like, give me a lesson. And he gave me a lesson, and I figured it out from there. Now I have another store in SL now for full perm mesh, and that's what I do most of the day. And then I build for Mischief Managed as well.
Lenny's actual real life job is Second Life, which I think
Yes.
is fascinating.
I'm online all day long.
I mean, I personally do way more Mischief Managed than I do my business, which makes money, And people are like, well, why are you spending all your time on this, doing this for no money? And I'm like, because I love it. And
Yeah, why do you watch 4 hours of television a day?
Absolutely. And that is a constant argument, actually, with some of my real life friends who will probably listen to this interview and be like, what?
Well, let's make the case, let's make the case for...
They love to watch television, and they'll sit and watch 12 episodes of Netflix, and I'll spend an evening making, honestly, beautiful, I think, artwork.
Yeah.
Second Life, and viewing other people's artwork and collaborating with other artists all over the world. And somehow the television has more value. And I'm like, really?
It is bizarre. It is bizarre.
Isn't that strange to you? I don't understand it. I mean, no, I didn't make any money off of building all of this stuff for the role players, but I get to, I feel such an incredible sense of accomplishment. I actually don't role play as much as I should, because I enjoy sitting in the sky and watching the role players play with the stuff we made.
You're the god.
I enjoy I'll sit and cam people, from the sky and be like, ooh, look, they're playing with the thing we made, and I get very excited. I'm very excited about that.
That is borderline creepy, though, a little bit.
But we have to see, are they able to actually, play the game, or are they all crashing and burning and fire their broomsticks? I'll talk about, I have a lot of friends in Second Life, and I consider them to be real, actual friends. Yet, my physical friends who I know, in my own town, think that is just insane, and these people don't matter. And I'm like, but they do. They're very real, In
my town, people do cross the street when I show up because they're afraid that I start talking about it. So, but how do you do this? And you're a hairstylist, as you said. Are you talking about this with a customer, perhaps?
I do. I've been at the same salon for 15 years, and if they've come to me that long, they know that I'm a little odd. And so... in any case, but clients are usually really fascinated about it. And when I first explain it to them, a lot of their reaction, if they've heard of Second Life at all, is, oh, it's that sex game. And I'm like, yeah, no, yes, but no. I mean, you can do anything in Second Life. You can go to one sim and everybody's, pretending to be a wizard, like at our sim, and you can go to the next sim and everybody's a My Little Pony, and the next sim everybody's chained up and whipping one another. It's again, it's a celebration of human creativity. You can do anything, and I think that's hard for them to understand. They expect video games to have a very linear, sort of progression, and for it to be complete.
But the world is rich like that. Why do you? I accept it with San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. But in general, the clients that I talk to about it they'll come back and ask me, oh, so what's going on in your Second Life? And they usually have some amount, other word that they've come up with. They've forgotten what it's called. But people seem in general really open to it and fascinated. And because they know me in advance, and usually it's not like I tell my first time clients. It's people that I've worked on for ages that I'll actually open up and talk about Second Life. They know that I'm a whole person otherwise, and so they seem to find it really interesting.
So, but you, but you do treat it like, let's say, a taxidermist who knows that if he starts a conversation with yes, I have tons of dead animals in my garage, may kind of be a conversation killer. So you start with the normal stuff, and then you add that later.
Sometimes it depends on the person. Second Life's a huge part of my life, so it's hard to, and my job is very intimate. I'm in people's personal space. We're touching, I'm touching them. And so it's really hard to talk about me and not eventually bring up Second Life,
Linny, how do you deal with since we're on that subject, how do you deal with talking about what you do with your family, friends, colleagues, whatever, the milkman?
I don't disclose the role play aspect of what I do. I don't think my real life friends or my family even know that I'm an admin, except for I think one. But that's it. They know what I do for a living, and I get a lot of questions about that. I just end up saying I make graphics for a video game, because otherwise they just don't get it. So.
Yeah, that's how I phrased it too. I make video game graphics.
My question was, are you concerned that then you wouldn't be understood, Linny, or that all the same old, like, oh yeah, the game where people have virtual sex and cheat on their spouses?
Yeah, that is part of the problem. This is not my original character, the Nashari one. I was on beta, so I'm very, very old. And when people found out that I was in it, so many questions. And then back then it wasn't really a whole lot to show. It was only one sim. And then once SL got into more of a swing and I came back as Nashari, I got more questions. Why are you doing that? Why do you spend your time doing that? Isn't it just sex? Or what you get out of it? And I'm like, okay, I don't like a lot of questions. So as much as I can, I'll make it short and to the point, and then hopefully it's dropped, but sometimes it's not.
But that's completely legitimate. I understand that. That's that's also a personal decision. Just you don't want to be bugged by that stuff. I tend to be kind of hitting people over the head because I feel that they could have really getting a lot out of it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take Linny's advice and just not engage. It's a waste of time. Okay, so you mentioned earlier, because just a couple more questions. This is so fascinating. You mentioned earlier you have a lot of writers among the role players, and so on your website there's a plot subsection here. Are there people actually writing this story? And who is in charge of that, or is that a collaborative thing?
It is collaborative. However, we have an admin named Klepto who is in charge of our role play department, and there's a group of people, a team, and they work on the plot line together, and they create an overarching story of things that we're working on, and then the players of course contribute, and so some things will be brought into the plot through the players' own stories, et cetera, and then some things are fed into the sim through us. We also have Sadie scripted us a questing system where they can go and click on items, and it gives them the go and collect 5 of these and 6 of this and bring it back to the imp who's going to run around and trash the school. I want players to have things to do when there's not other players to work with, and so we have scripted quests where there will be NPCs that are like, there are cats and paintings that can speak, etc., and they can go to them, and like there's a cat quest on the sim, for example, and it's a very flippant one, but the cat will look sad, and so they have to figure out how to talk to the cat. So they're hinted to go to the library where they can dig through the books and find a potion that will allow them to speak to the cat, and then the cat tells them that Professor Ipswich's mean cat has stolen its favorite ball, and then they get on this wild, crazy goose chase throughout the castle.
Wait, is this done with text?
It's done with text and graphics.
But the response is in text, so you don't have voiceover embedded in the objects?
Well, some of them are. I do voiceovers for some of our things that speak. Our Halloween quest was an imp that was released from the defense that scared Lenny to death.
Yeah, he didn't warn me, and I got terrified.
There was an imp that got released from the Defense Against the Dark Arts room and wreaked havoc on the school, and they had to catch it and put it back. And I did all the voiceover, so when they clicked on the imp, it actually spoke. And so that one was a lot of fun. Our Valentine's quest was mostly text and note cards. The items would speak out loud in the text, but also give them a note card detailing what they needed to do. And then there are mesh items for everything. They have to, when they have to collect things, they have to collect the item and then res it out in front of the giver and click it so that it will take them away.
How many people do you have right now? General numbers about the team behind this whole operation, roughly? And then how many role players do you have? Or do you also have a limit?
We don't have a limit. Role players come and go, and we have hundreds and hundreds of role players in the group. Generally, what would you say, Lenny? There's usually like 15 to 30 people on the sim at any given time, except the middle of the night, and then the poor, wayward Asian and European players, will wander around alone and bewildered. We struggle to get people that are interested in teaching classes in the middle of the night. The USA night. A lot of our players are from the US.
Is Second Life the best place for role-playing?
I think so. I've played a lot of tabletop. Lenny can answer this too. I enjoy tabletop, but
And by the way, tabletop is almost, I don't know if it's a resurgence, but it never really went away, and it's a very strong niche.
It certainly didn't, but our game is kind of based on a tabletop. We have dice rolls, etc. I find Second Life more compelling because the storytellers, which we have a vast team of storytellers, but we can build the environment for the players to interact in, and if there's going to be a bad guy, you see them. If there's I think that's way more exciting to me. If I were going to do a tabletop game like Shadowrun, for example, I would want to get a sim and set up the stuff. I think personally, yes, I think so. I have friends that would argue, real life friends would argue violently toward in opposition to that.
People who play Magic cards at the comic book store.
People play Magic cards. I have a lot of.
What is their argument against something like Second Life?
Their argument against Second Life is that I don't know. They really feel like it's the biggest thing is the Second Life hurdle. It's really difficult for new players. There's quite a learning curve, which in my opinion, it was like a 2-day learning curve for me. But I clearly. I can pick things up, I've tried to bring a lot of people to Second Life who were just lost and bewildered and ran away screaming, I feel like Second Life's definitely the most immersive place to role play because, you can role play in games that are pre-made for you, but you can make your own in Second Life, and that's way more exciting to me. So
that was Nashari Hines and Corbin Lacourt, administrators from the Managed Mischief Harry Potter role-playing sim. Go there now. The Slurl is on our blog. Now, what do you think, Joe, struggling with being a role-play administrator? You kind of have that among many other roles. What is your biggest challenge in administering 1920s Berlin? Is it probably putting people in jail because they wear flip-flops?
Biggest challenge? Well, I think the biggest challenge is the time you put into it, because it is something that if you don't spend a lot of time there yourself, it's just not going to work. I mean, unless you have people taking it over. And I'm just very lucky that we've got an amazing community of people who put a lot of work into it just because they want to, and because they feel that 1920s Berlin is like a home to them. And so at the moment there are not that many issues, except that all the bloody drunks and women with their skirts that show their knees, and I have to go and give them beer and schnapps, and and everyone calls me an old grumpy nanny, and it is actually I've been doing it for almost 6 years now, and it is still fantastic. I'm loving it.
You mentioned being there, so it is really like, we talk about this often, it's really like a small business owner. You gotta be available.
One of the things that made Berlin actually work is that we have a daily happy hour at the bar, which is every day for the last 6 years at 2 p.m. There is something happening in Berlin. And of course, by now I have plenty of friends who could help me with that, and who do, but who could also take over at the bar. But especially at the beginning, being there myself every day and creating this this atmosphere of like Cheers, the television show. You're going somewhere where everybody knows your name. And even if you're not that much into 1920s Berlin, there is a place where you can sit and have a chat and listen to a bit of music and enjoy yourself. So I think that was pretty much the beating heart for 1920s Berlin at the beginning.
You are the example that is being used from San Francisco Linden Lab to the Business Insider in Australia as something that is kind of successfully self-sustaining and a lot of fun.
The theme is so narrow. It is not something that appeals to everyone. Perhaps it's a bit unfair to say, but if something with such a strange little theme and just one region actually works and manages to pay its tier, I think a lot more people should be able to.
you're putting the finger right on it, that we're living in a very, very colorful world of micro niches. And if you focus on that niche, you can be economically self-sustaining. And that's actually a model that I find is much more conducive to, just a colorful world, basically.
Yeah, tiers should still go down, though. The bills still have to go down. And I think they should completely scrap the setup fee for new Sims.
Now, we're at the end of the show. Just one sentence. Please, folks, watch the Drax Files video number 28 with Whiskey Monday, because it's really, really life-affirming story. And Whiskey is opening up about a lot of issues. I'm very proud of her, and I'm thankful that she was able to opening up like this. It's a welcoming antidote to the addiction to games angle, which is so tiring. So Whiskey Monday, hats off to her.
I also think she's one of the best artists we have in Second Life, and that sometimes people forget a little bit about that because her stories are so deep. There's so much background to them. Besides all that, purely visually speaking, I think her pictures are amazing.
And they're made from prims. And I put an emphasis on this, showing it visually, how she actually starts with just moving prims around. And I think that's, again, this goes back to this encouraging, empowering nature of the simplicity of the building tools. And I just can't hear this anymore. There's just, everything is too complicated in Second Life. No, it is not. Okay, that's it. What are you doing this weekend?
I have absolutely no idea. The regular things. We're going to have tango evening in the Athlon. We're going to have tea dance. There's something wild at the Eldorado. There's just too much happening.
You can go over to the Managed Mischief sim. I think they're looking for a teacher of wizardry there, or how to make absinthe.
I'll be teaching black magic. I'm not sure if that's allowed there these days.
Might be. You have to write an application and get a different outfit.
I'll probably set things on fire and start on one of those magic wars like I've seen in a movie.
They will love it. Good weekend, everyone. Bye, Joe.
Auf Wiedersehen.
The Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Leap Motion, SL Go by On Live, Stitcher, Fateware by Damien Fate, Giza Creations, Arrows Avatars, Maven Homes, Mad Bee Productions, Bot Girls Identity Circus, Ison, Caravel Design, Vika Creations, Humanoid Animations, Loki Elliott, Botanical, Death Row Designs, Angel Red Couture, Fallen Gods Incorporated, What's Next, Abranimations, Blue Moon Enterprises, Avacon, and Landscapes Unlimited. Contact the show via Skype, DraxFiles, Avatar, DraxFiles, or email radio@draxfiles.com.
Okay, so we're adding this at the end of the show because we had it all edited and everything. Incoming news: OnLive has announced that they'll be closing the SL Go service, the SL Go mobile service, sponsor of this show, an awesome feature that upgrades every old machine to an instant SL Super machine. They're going to be removing the pay with Linden Dollar feature in world. SL Go Island will stay around for a while. SL Go services will operate until April 30th. Dennis Harper, Senior Product Manager, says on a personal note that he is really bummed about that, to use a colloquial term.
Sony bought, or acquired as they call it in those circles, OnLive, so the entire OnLive surface.
And as it is often the case with an acquisition, certain services are slashed upon the acquisition.
And I think probably SL Go either was not making much of a profit. It was a long-term project that OnLive was investing in, or it is just not what Sony is interested in, and they have different plans for all of OnLive.
We reached out to Dennis to answer these pressing questions, and I hope he may be able to do this in the comments. He didn't respond as we're recording this.
It really depends on what Sony has in mind for OnLive. Dennis says in his email that they are closing down the game service, including SL Go. That means that they are, cutting other services as well. And as far as I know, the only service OnLive has is game service. So it's not quite clear. Are they completely cutting everything? Are they just quitting? Are they stopping everything that they're doing? what happens to all the other games that they are streaming? Did Sony buy them because they have something very similar in mind, perhaps related to their Sony virtual reality headset?
The Morpheus, yeah.
Yeah, they just want to get rid of the competition, or use their experience and and history and customer base for their own service.
Cloud gaming service, cloud gaming capability coupled with a virtual reality headset, delivering maybe a cloud-based virtual world.
It is very strange and unexpected news, and very sad news.
The race is so on.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if this is just a small battle in the virtual reality wars that we've been talking about in this show.
The metaverse wars, as I like to call them.
This is pretty much going to kill my photography, in Second Life, because, with my old computer, it's no good. It means that whenever I leave home, I'm going to have to carry one very heavy Alienware laptop with me in my bag if I want to do Second Life, which is also rather annoying, because it also has to, have a dog and another bag and a suitcase. And maybe someone at Linden Lab can quickly run over and steal some of their tech. Run, Ebbe.
No, Ebbe is having dinner with the CEO of Sony, talking about the next acquisition. You'll hear it here first.